If you are in need of help, you are not alone. You matter to me. Please find some help. You can start at 988lifeline.org or by dialing 988. There is also text help available. Don't give up. The Golden Gate Bridge. More than 1,800 fatalities can be linked to the structure. These are people tragically taking their own lives. But was Sydney West one of a bigger statistic, or is there something more to this story? Some of my content has mention of extreme violence, sexual assault, and or other triggering content. Discretion is advised. Okay, so we're here. Anything you want to say?
I mean, it's
this one's a heavy.
Yeah, it's a heavy opener there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you said it pretty well though. I mean, don't be ashamed to get help if you need it. Because that's a big number. That's way bigger than it should be.
Right.
And yeah, just don't be afraid to get help. We talked about it a little bit before this. Like I literally had a class. I wish I knew the guy's name, but he actually gave a speech about where he tried to do this only on, I believe, the Brooklyn Bridge. And he came back and talked to my class about it, and my college class, and he survived it. He was very badly injured from it, but he survived it, and it changed his life, him surviving it, and he was still going. So that's, there's a good thing that happened out of it, but it happens way too frequently. And unfortunately, that's a way that a lot of people choose to take their lives.
Right. So this story and these themes are going to be extremely heavy. I do not want to trigger anybody, so shut it off. It's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, you can watch a different episode.
Right. You don't have to be here. But I think it's super important as for Sydney, but for people in this position, because there's more out there. And I think just reminding ourselves that every day is important. So let's get into the story. Are you ready?
Yep. Let's go.
All right. So let's talk about the Golden Gate Bridge for a little bit. It is known as the most photographed bridge in the world. It is a 1.7 mile long bridge that connects the northern tip of the San Francisco Peninsula to Marion County. It's vast and it is very beautiful. It is very peaceful and dangerous, to be honest. It has the dangerous feel to it, even though I've never seen it in person.
I mean, it's basically over ocean. It's that long, and it's in the earthquake area.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
every disaster movie, you just see the Brooklyn Bridge falling.
The Golden State Bridge.
Golden Gate
Brooklyn Bridge too, actually.
Yeah,
though.
the Brooklyn Bridge
really,
too. Yeah,
those two bridges.
Yep. Even though I've never seen it in person, it radiates from its pictures. The first tragic death happened only 10 weeks after the bridge opened. On August 7th, a World War I veteran named Harold Wauber said his final words to a friend whom he was walking with on the bridge. He stated, "This is as far as I go."
That's horrible.
It is, but it also just seems so...
I mean, it's poetic.
It is.
But at the same point...
It's tragically poetic.
At the same point in time, we mentioned... don't be afraid to get help.
Right.
if you're a veteran, I know that a lot of what veterans experience, definitely don't be afraid to reach out.
Yeah.
And so thinking of a veteran that happening was kind of yeah, I mean, I'm sure that he went through more than most will ever go through.
Right. Not many survive this jump, but some do, and those that do regret it, usually. The media has tried to stop reporting on it because it seems to make the attempts more. Go ahead.
I almost went... Scary. I don't know if I should go on this tangent or not, but I will say, I wish that the media would do that with certain other things, because I think that the media could learn something from that, because I do think that they report on, I don't know if we can say, you want to say tragedies? Yeah, I think the way...
You can say it. I mean, whatever you want to say.
Mass shootings, things like that. I think the way the media reports on it, I think it encourages more. It's a personal opinion, but I think they could learn a thing or two from what you just said about the Golden Gate Bridge.
And San Francisco Bay Area has taken a huge step that will stop this. They installed a net just off the side of the bridge. Don't worry, because it still looks nice. People were freaking out about that.
I mean, comparing the two, like, oh, we don't want our bridge to look not nice, but then, like, we'll just let people, yeah.
But it blends into the building, so tourists don't even notice it's there. So it still can be a tourist attraction. Like I alluded, that doesn't matter. But this project is expected to be completed this year. Good. So this is new.
Good.
And I really hope this prevents some of this from happening.
And I hope this works and that they do it at places like we said, the Brooklyn Bridge and other bridges like that.
Yeah. This is something sad and tragic, but it's part of life and needs to be talked about to share prevention. Many people suffer in silence with something that they can get help for. They can reach out for. However, Sydney West family doesn't believe that she took her own life on the Golden Gate Bridge. But Sydney has never been seen again. So let's talk about her a little bit. Sydney Caitlin West has been missing from San Francisco, California since September 30th, 2020. The night before, she had a long conversation with her father. Nothing seemed to be out of the ordinary. The next day, her dad tried calling, but was never able to reach her. Sydney was last seen approximately 6:45 a.m. entering the Golden Gate Bridge. She was dropped off by a ride-share service. The driver was interviewed by law enforcement, but was cleared. When she was dropped off, Sydney was wearing long dark leggings, a teal hoodie sweatshirt, and Van slip-on sneakers with blue-green tropical print. Her hair was in a bun on the top of her head. She may have been carrying a black backpack. Sydney, who often goes by Sid, loved to take pictures and walk around that area. This is something she would do often. So Sydney was originally from North Carolina. She moved to study at UC Berkeley. The next part is straight from findsydneywest.com. She had suffered a concussion over the summer of 2020 and was still recovering when she left for school. When she arrived at Berkeley, all of her classes were being conducted virtually because of the COVID-19 pandemic. This proved challenging for Sydney, and she made the decision to defer until fall 2021 so she could fully recover. So after she decided to take that break, she went to stay with some family until she could enroll. Now, we all remember how 2020 was.
Unfortunately.
And thereafter that happened, so I get it. There was isolation, there was unknown. This was a very hard and crazy time for everybody. Depression for a lot of people worsened during this time. Especially
younger people, I feel like.
Yes.
I feel like the numbers were a lot higher for younger people. Mm-hmm. And I guess for future people that watch this, like when 2020, future people, like I'm recording this for like the year 2300, I don't know. But yeah, we were so like didn't know, and we were so worried about it that like we would order food, and we weren't sure if we could order food.
Yeah.
We weren't sure if we could go through a drive-through and if that would give us COVID. And so everybody freaked out, and they bought toilet paper. They bought all the toilet paper.
Every single roll.
Every single roll. There were fights over it. It was insanity. People just thought it was the end of the world. And still,
it felt like the end of the world.
It was the most surreal thing I think I've ever experienced in my life.
Yes.
So when we get farther away from this, and when, our kids are old enough to watch these podcasts, and they go and they're like, what was the pandemic like? That's what it was like. It legitimately felt like the end of the world.
Yeah.
And it was hard mentally.
There was a lot of people who didn't make it mentally.
That's why it was important for you to say that, is because that uncertainty, that not knowing, that isolation, of being like quarantined in your house for as long as you possibly can. And if you don't, you could get this disease that we don't really know what it's going to do to you yet.
Right.
It was rough.
The fear of I think the hardest for a lot of people was my kid missed out on birthdays and holidays with her grandparents, because they would drill into your head, don't touch the elderly, because they're going to die. Elderly,
yeah.
And it was like
we didn't see our families for that year, at least. Maybe more, probably more. We would talk to them on the phone, obviously. We would make videos and send them to them, but it was the fear. And we heard a lot of our friends who had elderly family members who had that happen. Unfortunately, they lost elderly parents. I remember someone you worked with lost both her grandma and grandfather, right?
I had a classmate that I had in high school. She lost her dad. It was bad. And it was bad mentally and physically for everyone. Yeah,
and so the reason why this has to be said is for the mental health piece of it, because we probably won't understand fully how that impacted us all mentally for years and years to come.
And I mean, if you look at Sydney's case, she had just gotten back into school, and then she was suffering from this concussion. So when she went back, they said, you have to limit screen time. You can't do screen time because of your concussion. And then everything was virtual.
And I think
she had no chance.
I think that's also important too, because so I watch sports. I don't know how much of our audience watches sports, but I watch sports, and people get a concussion and they come back in a week or two, right? They come back to play in their sport in a week or two. That doesn't mean that you are not still suffering symptoms from your concussion. That also doesn't mean that there's not different severities of concussions, where some people cannot function after their concussion for a long time. You legitimately can suffer symptoms for a very long time after, and some of those people that play professional sports, they're still suffering symptoms when they come back. They're not at a risk to get another one, usually, is what the doctors say. They're like, okay, you're back to a normal function enough to where
that's so messed up.
Well, that is a big controversy, right? Because the last year, one of the players came back and got a concussion literally the week he came back, within minutes.
That's ridiculous.
And it was basically should you have let him go back?
No.
Yeah, it's just your brain rattling around in your skull, right? Not anything to be concerned about.
Yeah. But I mean, if you think about it, for Sydney, that could be a big thing too. She's now suffering from trauma of the brain. She is suffering from isolation, depression, I mean, all of these things hitting all at once.
The concussion, one concussion, I mean, there's studies out there, but like, I don't think one concussion usually causes CTE, but concussions do cause CTE. And if you don't know much about it, Will Smith had a whole movie on it. Go watch it. But,
keep my wife's name.
Different movie, different show.
For sure.
But the CTE causes all of those things you said too, like amplifies them. And so I'm not saying that's a thing that she had, because it obviously sounds like their family didn't believe that. But also just saying, like, people who have concussions, things like that, and have, it's usually repeated, so just one concussion doesn't mean that she's going to have CTE, but just something to think about.
Yep. So Sydney had a backpack with her that day. The backpack has been recovered, and her laptop that was in it as well. It was found near the bridge, but her cell phone is still missing. Since her disappearance, there has been no activity on her phone, her bank accounts, her credit card, or her social media. There was cameras around the Golden Gate Bridge, but that day was extremely foggy. There's footage of Sydney on the bridge, but it has not been released to the public. All we know is that she goes in, but does not seem to come out.
I think that's a thing in California too, is the... forget what they call it. It's like the, I'm gonna mess this up, mezzanine layer or something like that. But it's like a layer of fog that like comes over the town at like a certain time quite frequently. If you guys live in California, feel free to explain it in the comments, because obviously I'm in the Midwest and I have no idea what I'm talking about. But it's a thing.
It's a thing. I swear
it's a thing. It happens a lot.
The private investigator on this case says that the bridge was very crowded that day, with people driving, walking, and biking. However, no one reported anyone jumping. So...
But again, it was foggy.
It was foggy, but it is strange.
Yeah, right.
Her family is refusing to give up until they get some answers. However, because of the fog, we don't really know.
And Golden Gate Bridge, I don't know if you know this, because I don't know. I assume it's stop and go traffic usually, right?
I don't know.
Because that might be a thing too, is if people are
stopping on the Golden Gate Bridge.
She doesn't like bridges.
I don't like heights.
She doesn't like heights or bridges. I am the opposite. I'm the kind of person who will go jump on a bridge, just to freak her out a little bit. Don't do
that.
I'll go jump on a bridge to freak her out a little bit. But the stop and go traffic part of it made me think, like, I feel like you're more likely to have seen her jump if they were stopped. But if it's moves very good, that's not very good English. If the traffic moves well, then maybe it was harder to see in the fog.
It's late, guys. It's real late.
It is late. We're trying to get you guys as many podcasts as we can on our one night to record.
Yes. So it seems Sydney walked into the fog and then just never came back. I think this could be a case of her taking her own life, but it could be more as well. Like, there's just so many unknowns. And
it's important to listen to the family too, because the people who know the most are family. Like, they knew her. They, if they're sitting there saying, I don't think she did that, then they probably have good reason to say that. So we should hear that too.
Right. We just don't have any answers in this case, and it's so frustrating. This is one thing, like, people who just vanish, those stories are just baffling.
They bother you.
They bother me. They interest me, and I'm like, where'd they go and why? And are they living the life that we don't know? Or
you still haven't covered the case that by now everybody's probably waiting on.
I will.
She could probably cover it right now.
Oh, good. So there was this kid. No, I'm just kidding. So if you have any information into Sydney's case, you can go to findsydneywest.com. If you are struggling, please know that there is help out there. I am on BetterHelp, which they do not sponsor us, but if you'd love to, I actually use BetterHelp.
What is it that Sal says? Like, BetterHelp if you're watching, and we know you are.
Right. Come on, just send me that email. Because I use it. I actually do go to counseling. I talk about things that I need to talk about, and don't be scared of it.
And honestly, I'm a little, I need to, and the reason why I don't is I keep coming up with, excuses, and they are excuses, but I very strongly encourage everybody, including myself, to do it, because I am going to do it. I gotta stop making excuses. I keep saying like, oh, well, I can't spend the money on that right now, or whatever. Well, your mental health is probably the most important thing that you can do to take care of yourself. So
you can invest in, because like literally, like, you spend the most time with yourself. Yeah. Literally. So,
and you gotta, be okay with yourself to really get anything out of life in general.
And I mean, we all went through the pandemic.
Yeah.
Which is traumatizing. This was a global thing that happened
literally to everybody on the world.
Yes, and we lost so many people. And not only that, there's been all kinds of things happen since and before that are traumatizing. And we have the resources now to reach out to.
And now we know that it's okay to reach out. It's not the stigma of the past where it's like there's something wrong with you if you reach out.
Exactly. So we don't really know what happened to Sydney. What is your best theory?
I don't know that's hard, because it's like you said, it literally sounds like she walked into the fog and didn't come out. I'm torn, because I want to I want to believe the family, because I feel like they're going to know the best. I feel like they're going to know what mental state she was in the best. But also, I mean, what could have happened if she walked into onto the bridge and walked in the fog and didn't come back out? Like, what are we saying the alternatives would be? Are we saying that somebody
took her,
kidnapped her on the bridge? Like, it's possible. I mean, sounds like her bag and things like that were found in the water and things like that. And
it wasn't in the water. It was on the bridge.
It was on the bridge. Okay. Which I'm guessing a lot of people probably set their stuff down if they, did they do jump or whatever.
Or it could have been an accident.
Yeah, it could have. I feel like that would have been more seen. I feel like more people would have seen that happen if there was an accident.
But if no one saw her jump, no one could have saw her had an accident.
I guess that's true. I was thinking of like a car coming towards her or something. Like, I feel like that would be obvious enough that a lot of people would see it. But yeah, again, I want to think the family probably does know the best. But I will say that a lot of people with depression don't always make it. They try to avoid letting their families know.
They're suffering in silence, literally.
Or even, so one of my favorite singers, who tragically committed suicide, was Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, and watching the stuff that I've seen about him, it blows my mind, because he was literally like photographed days before smiling with his family. And it was one of those things where it's kind of like you see that and you're like, they say this is what somebody suffering with depression looks like, and if you look at him, you don't see it. And so that is hard, because it is possible that someone is not letting you know, and there's really nothing you can do at that point. If they choose not to let you in on it, there's nothing you can really do other than just be good to everybody in general.
Yep.
So one of the stories I mentioned earlier, I went to a college in Hays, Kansas, Fort Hays State University, and a guy spoke at our class, not really directly at our class. There's a video of him speaking, and it was used in our class. I'm going to try to see if I can find his name, see if I can find who it was, but he actually jumped off of the Brooklyn Bridge and survived. I think it was the Brooklyn Bridge. It's possible it could be a different one, but his story, if I remember right, was the Brooklyn Bridge, because he was talking about things like the water being icy and things like that. That being said, if I can find his story, I think it would definitely be worth you guys checking it out, because it was he was going around speaking to people after it, and it was kind of a motivational, not really motivational, that's kind of the wrong word, but like, I tried to do this. I tried to jump off the bridge, and then my life changed afterwards, and I'm glad that I survived it, kind of a story. He managed to work on some of the things that caused him to jump off of the bridge and actually helped make him, I don't want to say better, because I don't know that you're ever fully better after something like that. Like, it just is not like a cure, but he was able to kind of change his life from that moment. And I'm definitely not saying, when I say change his life, like, it took a huge moment for him to change his life. It doesn't have to take that for any of you out there struggling. You can go get help before it comes to that. And if I can find it, if you guys can find it, that's awesome. Please do link it, because I would like to actually watch it again, and just because it's been almost 10 years since I watched it, so I'm trying to find it, trying to remember it. Maybe not even 10 years, maybe 5 years. But yeah, if you guys see it, a man from Hays, Kansas jumped off of a bridge, I think in New York, survived it, and went on to tell his story to other people. And at least at the time of me hearing that story, it sounded like he had made a lot of changes in his life for the better. If that guy sees it, just FYI, you're amazing, and your story was obviously impactful, if I'm remembering it from a class probably 5 years ago, at least, maybe 10 years.
Yeah, hit us up. We'd love to have you on.
Yeah, and in general, we'll share your video as well as share your story. So
yes,
if any of you guys end up finding that, any of you guys digging that up, I will also look myself, because I just really want to know. But the moral of that story was that, yes, he decided to do something that was obviously really difficult and taking his own life, but then he was able to turn things around after that big of a change, or big of a event, I should say. And it doesn't have to take that big of an event. And if he was to that point and he was able to kind of turn things around, I believe anybody can. So please go reach out, get help if you need it. And we'll try to see if we can find his story for you guys. We'll try to link it down below.
All right. And if you want some more information about Sydney, please go to that sydneywest.com. It's got a lot of more information about her.
And if you know anything, just reach out to that. It sounds like reach out to the website, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you know anything, if you saw anything that day, if you're friends with her and you have any ideas that might be helpful, definitely reach out. Anything helps.
All right, and we will be back with a longer case and a different case next week.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please take care.
Yes.
Peace.
Bye. Hi guys, I just wanted to say I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like any of the content for Code 187, please click that subscribe button, that like button, that share button. Help us out, help us grow. You can find us on your favorite podcast platforms. Yeah, check us out on there. Give us some ratings. Tell us what you think. We're also across every social media on Code 187. So we're on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I think that's it. And of course, YouTube. So please, please, please subscribe if you like our content and spread the word. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.